So I'll go ahead and demonstrate how this works. First, you're going to have to open up your file transfer, and you're going to move these files and you're going to put them on your web server, which I have already done here. And if they're on there already, you can overwrite them, which is what I always do. So I'm just going to overwrite each of those files and go ahead and put it on my web server, which was seen over here earlier. And you may also notice I have a PHP data. We'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, I'm just going to demonstrate how exactly this works. So if I enter the name John Smith, for example, and I hit submit, it gives me the message data received. So how do I know that my data was actually received? If I go over here to the side on my web server on the right, then I can go ahead and view my data, and then it'll say John, and then it has this bar that I put in, Smith. So obviously that was successful, and I was able to store my data in my flat file data, text file. So now we know that data is in there, so our program looks like it's working successfully. But say we want to get that data back out on a website instead of just having it in our database. I mean, having data is nice, but you always want to do something with it. So that's where this PHP data program works. So basically what I did here is I wrote this PHP program. I opened the file just like we did before, except you'll notice I used this R character at the end, which I'm just reading the data from my database, so I don't want to be messing around and accidentally write something or delete my data, so I'll just use this read command. And once again, I check to make sure if the file was opened. If not, I exit because I cannot access it anymore. And then I'll go into this while loop. And what I have here is this fef is a built-in function, and it tells me if I'm at the end of my file. End of file. So, and then I call it on the file. This variable can be whatever, but as you can see, I've used it several times, so just make sure they're all consistent. And I call this, and it returns whether I've reached the end of my file or not. And if I'm not at the end of my file, I want to go through this loop, and I want to keep looping through until I am at the end of my file. So basically this line is just going to be a string. I'm going to use fget on my file, and it'll get up to 1024 characters on my line. So basically I'm grabbing this whole first line of my text file, and you can change this amount if you have very long string of data that you need to pull, but this, I don't think anyone's going to have a name longer than 1000 characters, so I think I'll be safe here. And now I'll create another variable called data, and what I'm going to do here is use this explode function. Now this is a built-in PHP function that basically you specify this delimiting character. Now this is the delimiting character you picked before. I told you why I chose this character, and basically it's going to take that line of data that I specified here, and it's going to split it at every point that you have this, and it's going to get rid of this character completely and separate it into a different set of string arrays. So I'm going to have an array, and each element of my array is going to be every time that this character was in it. So I'll have John, and then will be my 0 element of my array, and then Smith, the last name, will be the first element of my array. So this character, once again, is removed completely. So if you want that to be in there, then you're going to have to re-add it in yourself. But what I did here is I went ahead and went through my data, and I'll get every line, and I will break the line up based on this delimiting character, and basically I will print out the data. So I'll print out the first name and add it with a space because I don't want it just crammed all in one name. Then I'll add it with the last name. And finally, I will add this break tag. You can actually use HTML tags right in your PHP, and basically it'll create a new line for me. And then I will do FP++, which will basically take me to the next line of my file. And if that line isn't the end of my file, I'll go through again and do the same thing with the next name. So this loop here is going to print out every single name in my database. So I'll just have a nice list of all the people that have entered their data for me. And once again, you always want to close your file at the end. So let's see if this works. So we'll go in, and as you can see here, I was talking about how the data is posted for the get method. You can see it after your URL and your PHP program. It adds a question mark, and then it has whatever variable name you assign, so first and last, and then it equals whatever value you assigned it to. So John, and then they're connected with an and symbol. So this one has equals Smith. So that's how that works, but we're going to go ahead and go over to the PHP data page. And this page, as you can see, did exactly what I wanted it to do. It printed out the name John Smith. So now we have a perfectly working PHP function, and always make sure you update the latest version of it with your online file. Otherwise, you'll be wondering why it didn't work. You're changing stuff and it's not updating. You have to drag this over and update it every time you make a change. And also make sure to save all your files in the correct format. So now we'll go ahead and go back in to Second Life. And as you can see here, we have our nice media prem. And I'm going to go ahead and edit it. And I'm going to select this front face again. And I don't want Google to be my home page anymore. I wrote a perfectly good program, and I want that to be my new page. So as you can see here, I've updated my home URL to be the URL of the PHP form that I just created, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that and see how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my home page by clicking that, and you can see it takes me right here. Now this page, I like to optimize my pages for Second Life after a while by changing the font, changing the centering and the style so it looks nice and you don't have just this little tiny thing right up in the corner of your page. But I didn't do that for this program, so as you can see right now, I just have this little tiny corner that has the two fields and the submit button. But that's easy to change. Right now, I'll just go ahead and see if I can actually use my program in PHP in virtual world, which is what we want to do all along. So if I go ahead and enter my name, and if I click the submit button, it says data received. So now we can go back out to our data page and see if that new data has also been entered into my database. So now we have John Smith and my name entered into our database, which is very nice, and we can use this for a variety of reasons. Files, storing data is used in tons of programs, has endless uses. So it's also now in our flat file database. So if I go ahead and view it here, you'll see John Smith is shown there, but I have not refreshed this, which I said before. So we'll go ahead and view it again, and it still only has John Smith. So obviously it's right there because it's reading my name from here. So this is what's accessing the database in the first place. So we do have the new file data stored in the program. And the next tutorial I will probably go into how to use the HTTP post method in the scripting language for Second Life, the LSL scripting, so that you can see how to use this without media prems. If you don't always have access to the Second Life viewer, you can still make use of these PHP functions, and it's not a complete waste. So thank you for watching, and I hope you found this tutorial helpful.